Why am I even doing this? My mates are out drinking
I
and
should have
now.
just stuck to playing with Legos. Break it like on the knee. Make it quick. There's this corner in my space I need to really do something about because I got rid of a bookshelf and went for aesthetics and put a book basket there. Now I just think it looks a little off and clumsy, so I decided that look, I need a side table like a normal adult, but unlike other normal people who would just go out and buy one, like I chose to make one for myself. So I got on Pinterest, picked out the most expensive looking thing that I can make in very few tools. Enter pen and paper. A little drawing of the plant here. I'm thinking, okay, fine. If I have the plant there, I can essentially put it on a small table with like legs, but I want more like a cube type thing. There's this nice one that I saw which looks luxurious and whatnot. I'm like, okay, fine. Then make it big enough so I can put the this stuff here. Because it's the book box. I'll call it a book box for now. Put it underneath and yeah, just neaten up that whole corner there, because it's just looking off. And for this, I settled on a size of 470 wide and 460 high. Let's go build something. So foolish me thought I would cut wood the same way my grandfather did with his hand saw in 1901, and I quickly had to call myself to order and make a better plan. Because I don't have a circular saw or a jigsaw, I decided to get some wood cutting discs from my grinder and do some sketchy cutting. Most hardware stores have a service where you can get them pre-cut to measurements, but where's the fun in that? I went through a couple of discs. Some burnt the wood, another was too violent and tore the wood, and there was one that just smoked a lot. But eventually, I got my pieces. Now, a small disclaimer, I'm using pine, which is very soft and essentially very affordable. After cutting them to a rough size, I went ahead and just made sure that they fit and I get them to the exact size that I need. Then I went ahead and sanded over the edges so it feels smooth and made sure everything was the exact same size because most of the cuts are joining points, so they really needed to be straight. I didn't want anything to be wonky or wobbly. Please also note that I am operating my makeshift saw on the table wearing safety goggles for my eyes and a respirator mask. After sanding the pieces nice and smooth, you can see here with a little bit of totally legit quality control with my hands that I made sure that everything was perfect. Just perfect. Now, with the design I decided to go for, I'll be joining these pieces to make a cube, and I'll be using dowels and wood glue to do that. So I got a dowel making jig and started drilling the holes in, which was a bit tricky because my table legs are made from marshmallows, as you can see. I don't really have the best surface to clamp with, but nothing was going to stop me from showing my skill with the drill, and I think I made it work enough. So one of the things I did, I set the holes on alternating planes just so that the dowels. The other thing that I really tried to do was number all my sides and holes as I went along, and eventually, when I was done marking all the dowels and holes and double checked all the numbers and size, I made sure I didn't miss one. But the next step after this was essentially just to dry fit all the pieces and make sure I get my almost perfect cube eventually, and my almost perfect cube and everything fitting nicely. This really helps because any mistake here can be corrected before the glue up. So I moved on to the glue up, and this came in two parts. I glued together the upright and the connecting parts and clamped them and let them dry overnight. Then eventually the outer two squares together to make a cube. Word of advice, if you're gonna do any DIY, get yourself some clamps. A lot of clamps. There is never too many clamps. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you have too many clamps. These things are just what you need all the time. Also, I used dowels because it gave me cleaner joints than screws and pocket holes, and I really wanted something that looked like I borrowed from a house and home magazine. Finally, clamped everything up, wiped away the glue squeeze out, filled in any gaps with wood filler, and let it dry. Once that was done, I sanded all the edges and joints to be smooth and level. Wiped everything down with mineral turpentine to remove any dirt and dust, get it looking ready for finish. The turpentine really helped get the grain popping a bit, and it was looking so good at this point. If you probably said to me, I know you're done, it's fine, I would have been like, oh, okay, I understood the assignment. Then I went on to apply two coats of a clear velvet finish polywax sealer that really gives it a nice feel and isn't too shiny. So after a design meeting with my dog, I decided to use this offcut of quartz that I had laying around and use that for the top. I cut this large piece into two equal pieces, and for this I used the angle grinder again to make the surgical grade incisions. This was a learning curve for me as I'd never really cut quartz before and I was discovering what is what as I went along. Pro tip from a non-pro: always clean your tools when you're done with them. Always clean your tools when you're done with them. That way they're always ready to be used. If you don't have a good piece of quartz offcut lying around, you can actually substitute that with a few things like MDF boards and painted or pine boards, all from your local hardware store. And this is just a variation that will change the look somewhat and the cost, but it's all available. Now, after measuring the dimensions I wanted, I ran a bright green tape on the inside line to make sure I don't cut away too much material. Think of this as like the DIY version of coloring in between the lines. And it was soon time for the grinder and respirator again so I can make all the dust in the world. After cutting, it was then now time for polishing. And for polishing, I actually used the Orbital sander that I recently unboxed. Brand new stuff, nice, shiny out the box. One of the things that I needed to get around is that polishing requires, polishing quartz rather requires wet polishing for it to shine. And I don't really have one of those professional wet polishers, so using some sketchy engineering, I used the orbital sander with a little fafa of water here and there. I did this a few times, wiping away the paste that forms with each passing grit. I also did the underside so it has that extra premium feel and doesn't scream DIY, you know. Um, Polishing is actually a lot like sanding, except you swap out sandpaper for polishing discs, which have an ever increasing level of smoothness and the shine that it can give you. I went at this a few times progressively until I got to the 3000 grit. This is where I really started to feel like a little child because with every increasing level, it became smoother and shinier.
Nothing. Remove everything. Hey, fine boy. Yeah, looking really sharp, looking good. Look at your head, shiny.
And finally, the reveal, the update, the upgrade, whatever you really want to think of it, is this space here is just gonna get. Please ignore the cables at the back. I know they're a problem. I'll fix it someday in the future. For now, here's the base. I put a little rubber stands on there so that the to support the top. Put a little rubber stands there to support the top, and here's the thing with that little map of Africa. I really think it came out great, but let me know what you think in the comment section. If you'd like to see me do more affordable DIY projects, let me know in the comment section as well, and any suggestions.